So I've actually been talking to a lot of you guys in the comment sections of my videos, and we've been talking a lot about Nintendo stock. And the reason why is because I've been losing a little bit of confidence in Nintendo's management and the stock overall. And up until now, Nintendo has been my #1 largest stock. But I wanted to get this message out to more of my viewers, and so I decided to make a video and talk about Nintendo stock and why I'm losing confidence. So let's get started. What's up everybody, my name is Ale and welcome to my world of stocks. Now, as you guys know, before I even started this YouTube channel, Nintendo has long been my #1 largest stock. And I actually started buying Nintendo stock when it was below $20 per share, and overall my cost basis is still in the low 30s, which is really good considering that the stock is still trading at around $44 per share. And even at some points I was cashing in profits in the 50s while my cost basis was still in the high 20s. So when looking at Nintendo stock, there's not really a whole lot that I can complain about. But for the past few months, Nintendo stock has been struggling. And while I hate to sell my stock at lower prices than I would like them to be, I do feel very frustrated with Nintendo's management, and I've decided to cash in some of my profits. And when I say some, I mean some, not all. It is very rare that I actually sell out of an entire position unless a company is completely messing everything up, which I do not think is the case with Nintendo. I do still think that they have massive potential in the future, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. But for the time being, I am very frustrated with them, and so I did decide to cash in some of my profits. And the reason why is because I just feel that Nintendo is becoming much more of a speculation play than I originally anticipated. And listen, I have nothing against speculation or speculative stocks. And by the way, when I say speculative or speculation, I don't mean just throwing your money into some random stock. I mean actually having reasons to speculate or predict based on evidence that you have that a stock is going to go up or down, things like that. So, and that's really just kind of all we do in the stock market is speculate. So I don't know. I'm not gonna, that's a whole like rant for another day. But the thing is that sometimes speculative stocks can give you massive gains. And if you know what you're doing, if you don't go overboard with it, some people of course go overboard and they do just throw their money at random stocks. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you are careful and you do your research and then you speculate a little bit, sometimes you can get massive gains, and the risks can be minimized as long as you know what you're doing and you're doing your proper research. But the thing is that Nintendo was my #1 largest stock, and I don't think it's ever a good idea to have your #1 largest stock, to have your most amount of money into a stock and it be a speculative stock. That's just too much of a risk. It can be a little speculative, that's fine, but it's getting to the point where I think Nintendo is becoming too much of a speculative play. And so I'm going to explain all the reasons why in just a second. And so honestly, at like #3 or lower, I feel much more comfortable owning a stock like Nintendo at this point. So that's basically what I've done. I've cashed in some profits. Right now Nintendo is trading at around $44 per share. I've cashed in some profits there, and I've actually cashed in some profits even before. At one point it was trading in the 50s. I've cashed in some profits there. I've also bought the stock at pretty bad prices as well, so I'm not going to get into all of that. The point is that I've cashed enough of my profits so that Nintendo is now my #3 largest stock as of right now. So in the next 3 stocks I'm investing in video, where I give you guys an update on my 3 largest stocks, Nintendo will probably still be at #3. And the way I see it is that I've held enough of my Nintendo position to still benefit from Nintendo if they do go up, which I'm still predicting that they will. I'm just not so confident about it anymore. So that's why I'm holding it kind of at my #3 spot. And if it goes up, I'll benefit from that. And if the stock goes down, which I think is becoming a possibility now, or at least a slightly higher possibility than before, then I can still pick up more Nintendo shares at lower prices. So either way, I feel like I benefit no matter what the outcome is. So that's kind of why I'm doing this. Okay, so why am I actually losing confidence in Nintendo? Well, if you don't already know, Nintendo recently had their Nintendo Direct in the month of September, which is like when they announce a bunch of different games and things like that coming to their newest gaming console, which is currently the Nintendo Switch. And I, like many others, had really high hopes for this presentation. Okay, they were supposed to talk about their new online subscription service that would bring in tons of revenue at really high margins, so that would be great as an investor. By the way, you guys already know this, or most of you know this, but I am actually a fan of Nintendo. Give me 1 second. So here's the Nintendo Switch. You know, it's not like I'm just an investor. I do actually play with the Nintendo Switch and things like that. I'm a little bit of a gamer, not like hardcore or anything, but I am a little bit of a gamer. So I went into this presentation hoping for the best as both an investor and as a customer. And like I always tell you guys, I like to invest in stocks that have a personal relationship with, meaning that I'm actually a customer of whatever product or service it is that they're actually selling. Those are the stocks that I really like to invest in because I'll understand the industry and the company a lot better that way. So anyway, in this presentation, we were supposed to hear about their new online subscription service. Okay, so that's one. And then there was also heavy rumors going in that there was going to be more third-party game support, and also even some first-party game support as well. So basically new games for the Nintendo Switch to try to help them sell more Switch units as they try to hit that projection of 20 million Switch units for the fiscal year. And that 20 million Switch unit projection, that is a very important projection. They really have to hit that number. I believe if they don't hit those 20 million in the fiscal year, I think the stock is going to really suffer. But if they are able to hit that number, I think that will bode very well for the stock. Well, a lot of the presentation turned out to be a disappointment. Now, if you actually look at their YouTube video where they talk about the online subscription service, so we're going to start there with the subscription service. That video in just a few days has over 300,000 views, and it has only around 7,000 likes and over 28,000 dislikes. I mean, can you guys imagine if I put out a video and I had that kind of ratio, if I had that many dislikes? I mean, I'd literally be thinking, what the hell did I do wrong? Well, like, obviously, I pissed off a lot of people, right? That's a horrible ratio. And I'd immediately start to think, how can I fix this? But will Nintendo fix this? Probably not. I mean, you know, can they? They certainly can, but they probably won't. So let's look at all the things that they're kind of doing wrong that is making a lot of their customers angry or disappointed. Now, at the end of the day, Nintendo of Japan is the big dog that really calls all the shots for Nintendo. They have subsidiaries like Nintendo of America, Nintendo of Europe, a couple others as well, but those don't really call the shots. It's really Nintendo of Japan that really kind of sets everything in motion. And they're the ones, from all the reports I've seen, from all the videos I've watched, from all the interviews I've seen, things like that, the way I understand it is that Nintendo of Japan are really the ones that are pushing out all these different services that nobody is asking for. Nobody wants these things, and Nintendo of Japan is really the one that is pushing that forward. Nintendo of America, a lot of people think that Nintendo of America is kind of trying to be a lot more consumer friendly. They're trying to actually listen to what the customers actually want, and so they're always left trying to spin everything that Nintendo of Japan does and try to make it look positive, but it's never really their ideas. It's always kind of just coming from Nintendo of Japan. Okay, so what does this service actually do? Well, first of all, this is a service to play games online, and it does do that. But you can't even voice chat or create parties online, which, by the way, if you're a gamer, you know that those things matter. You can't even do that at a system level. You can't do that on the console itself. You have to use a smartphone application to do that. Now, just think about how insane that sounds. Think about if you're playing a video game online with your friends and you want to talk to them while you're playing the video game, you have to use an application on your phone. That's the way Nintendo wants it. You have to use an application on your phone just to be able to talk to them. Why in the world would you do that? Why wouldn't you just call them? I mean, there's no reason to do that, you know, on a phone level. There's lots of reasons to do it on a system level, much more convenient, and lots of other things. But to do it on your phone, that's ridiculous. So if I'm playing a video game with you and I say, hey, you know, let's start voice chatting or whatever, and I say, hey, you know, open up an app on your phone so that we can talk, you might just look at, you know, or you might just reply to me like I'm crazy and say, why don't you just call me? Why are we using an application? Now, some benefits that I guess you could argue would be that it doesn't take up minutes, but we live in late 2018, and most of the markets, the big markets where the Nintendo Switch is actually selling, I feel like most people have unlimited calling plans anyway. And even like, to kind of throw away that argument, on a system level, on a console level, if you're voice chatting through the console, that doesn't take up minutes either. So that kind of makes that whole argument irrelevant. So there's really just no reason to have to use an app on your phone. I really feel like it's Nintendo just being stubborn. I don't know if they're trying to collect data. I don't know what it is exactly, why they're trying to push so much for people to use their smartphone. It really seems like a thing coming out of Nintendo of Japan. Nintendo of America, whenever you see them talk about it, they always seem kind of confused about it, like they don't really know why they're doing it. Nintendo of Japan seems much more pushing in that sense. And then you look at some of these other features, and you know, the main thing is being able to play online with your friends, but we've always been able to do that with Nintendo, and we never had to pay a fee. So now Nintendo's charging a fee to do that. So a lot of investors were actually asking Nintendo during like earnings calls and things like that. They were asking Nintendo, how are you going to get people to start paying you money to do something that they've always been able to do? And Nintendo would always give kind of the same type of response, which made me as an investor want to invest in them, because they would always say things like, well, we're going to give them a lot of value. There's surprises. There's things that we haven't announced yet. And they would always say, when we announce it, people are going to sign up. Kind of just telling you, just trust us. People are going to sign up. We're going to offer a lot of value, a lot of things like that. So as an investor, that made me think, okay, they're probably going to offer a lot of value to the customers that is going to make the customers want to sign up. It'll be a no-brainer. And one of those things was virtual console. I honestly thought that they would have some sort of virtual console. Now, it turns out that they're giving you NES games, which we've already known about. So you get basically 20 NES games at the launch of the service. But these are NES games. This is the oldest console that Nintendo's ever had in history, back from the 1980s, I believe. So these are really old games that nobody really cares about. What everybody wanted was SNES, N64, GameCube, things like that. Now, if you don't know what virtual console is, that's a service that Nintendo has had in previous generations, where you could play older games from older consoles on the newest console. You would have to buy them, but you'd have the opportunity to buy them and play them, and the cost wouldn't really be that high. And so my thought as an investor was, okay, Nintendo is telling us that they're going to offer all this value to get people to sign up. They're probably going to push a sort of subscription service where it's kind of like Netflix, but for gaming, with all their backlog of games. And that sounds amazing to me. That would definitely get people to pay for this subscription service, and obviously profits would go through the roof. But that doesn't seem to be the case. It turns out that we're just getting NES. There are some kind of rumors and hints to them offering SNES in the future, but that's still really far behind, and we don't even know when that will come out. What people really want would be more SNES, more N64, and even GameCube. That doesn't seem to be happening. And the thing is that, you know, a lot of people say, well, people are still going to buy this service. They're still going to buy it because if they want to play online, they have to pay for this service. So it's not going to hurt Nintendo either way. They're still going to make more money off of this. But I think the point that people are missing is that it's not just about getting people to sign up for the service. As an investor, what I wanted to hear was that this service would be so valuable to the customer that it would convince people to buy the Nintendo Switch, helping push those unit sales, helping us reach that 20 million projection. I honestly thought that there was going to be a lot more value here, because Nintendo seems so confident in hitting that 20 million mark that I thought, okay, they're going to offer virtual console, and then they'll market the Switch as, hey, you can play all your old games on the go on a portable console like the Nintendo Switch. But again, that doesn't seem to be the case. So now something that used to be a positive for the customers to get them to buy the Nintendo Switch is actually a negative. Now it turns into a negative, because you're basically paying $20 a year for something that you've already had. You've already had the ability to play online. Now you also have to use a smartphone app to talk to your friends and make parties. I mean, it just sounds ridiculous. And then the last thing that they mentioned is that this new service will give you discounts on certain things, but what those things are, we have no idea. When those discounts happen, we have no idea, because Nintendo of Japan is so damn secretive. I mean, the only time that we ever really get any useful information, in my opinion, is when there's an interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé, and he happens to be the president of Nintendo of America, not Nintendo of Japan. So Nintendo of Japan, just really secretive, and Nintendo overall, just to be honest, is very secretive. And all of this, you know, withholding information from the consumer, things like that, I don't think it's a good idea. this really is turning into more of a negative. And then when looking at third-party support, I was thinking, okay, we're probably going to get some announcements at this Nintendo Direct. There's heavy rumors of GTA 5, heavy rumors of some sort of Call of Duty game. So big AAA games, third-party games, didn't happen. None of that got announced. We got Civilization 6, which I don't even know who's going to play that. Well, I shouldn't say that. Some people I'm sure do like that game. But anyway, we got Civilization 6. A few, like some Final Fantasy games, which I've never played, so I don't really know much about it, but I guess some people do like those games. But I was hoping for massive AAA games from third parties, and nothing really came out. Another huge rumor that was going around was a Metroid Prime trilogy, which a lot of people were asking for. Now, that's a first-party game, not third-party, but still, it was something that a lot of people were asking for. And it never showed up. It wasn't there. Huge rumors going around, never showed up. So at this point, my two largest concerns right now are that the Nintendo Switch is just too underpowered to attract major third-party AAA support. And the other concern is that while I do think a lot of people will sign up for the online subscription service regardless, this was something that I thought was going to attract more customers, and now it's actually a negative, so I don't think it's going to attract anybody. So now you're really left with, okay, the Nintendo Switch needs to sell units based off of its first-party support and based off of the fact that it is a hybrid console, and then sprinkled in with a few third-party games here and there. But on the other hand of all this, there is still some massive potential with Nintendo, and that's why I'm holding the stock. Because if you think about it, this Nintendo Direct for me was very underwhelming. For a lot of people, it was very underwhelming, but it does feel like the media and a lot of like YouTubers that talk about this and stuff, that put out videos and everybody watches them, it does feel like they are really praising the Nintendo Direct. And the reason why is because they showed off a new Luigi's Mansion game coming in 2019, and even a new Animal Crossing game also coming out in 2019, both of which were heavily requested by fans to come to the Nintendo Switch. And originally, one of the biggest reasons why I invested in Nintendo in the first place was because of Pokemon. Nintendo has some of the strongest brands, some of the strongest IPs out there in the gaming industry. In my opinion, the best. Like the best brands, the best IPs. And Pokemon is a huge one. It sells like crazy. And we have the newest Pokemon game coming in November. And then we also have Smash Brothers coming in December, which is already seeing incredible pre-order numbers despite, not even being out there yet. And so I think those two games alone could help us get to that 20 million fiscal year projection that we need to hit in order for this stock to really recover and really start doing a little bit better. And on top of that, 2019 is looking absolutely stacked. I mean, you look at some of these games that are coming out in 2019, they have a ported over game, a ported over Super Mario game that is going to sell very well because it's Mario. So it's, even though it's ported over game, it's going to sell very well. They have the new Luigi's Mansion game, a new Yoshi's game, the new Animal Crossing game, and then they have two massive games in Metroid Prime 4, and then yet another Pokemon game coming out next year that is supposed to be made for the more hardcore fan base, so it's going to sell insanely well also. And of course, there is still the possibility that Nintendo may actually improve their online subscription service as time goes on. Now that they're actually charging for it, maybe that money comes in and they reinvest it. Maybe they start releasing games for the SNES, N64, and maybe even GameCube. And maybe as time goes on and the Nintendo Switch starts to get older and maybe people stop caring about it so much, maybe they start adding all these old games in there, that whole backlog, and maybe people start looking at the Nintendo Switch as a major value where they can play their old games on a hybrid console. So maybe that kind of helps pick up sales again. Those are things that could happen, that could potentially happen in the long run to really help Nintendo stock. But transitioning over to my conclusion, you got to figure that all these games I just mentioned, they're all first-party games, and if you really want Nintendo stock to really climb, you're probably going to need more third-party support, because the problem is that if it doesn't get third-party support, it's not necessarily that people won't buy the Switch, because I think Nintendo's brands and IPs are so strong that people will still buy the Switch even regardless, just for the first-party games. But the problem is that the media will tear down Nintendo. Like they'll sink their teeth into Nintendo and they'll try to drive that stock down, because they'll say, oh, the Switch is going to be a failure, it's not getting this third-party support and stuff like that. And in the gaming industry, you need hype, you need different things to really hype up something and make people think that this Switch is going to sell insanely well, and then that would drive up the stock price. I don't know if I'm kind of rambling on here. I'm trying to keep my train of thought, but the thing is that when analysts come out, and a lot of analysts don't even play video games, so what they're going to look at is things like third-party support. It'll matter to analysts, and I think what will really matter to analysts is if Nintendo hits their projections. Right now it's at 20 million Switch units for the fiscal year. That is a very important number to hit. And again, I think we'll be fine. That's why I'm holding some Nintendo stock, because I think Pokemon and Smash Brothers alone can get us to that number, and that's one of the reasons why I'm still holding Nintendo stock. But at the end of the day, guys, I'm cashing in profits, not losses. I'm cashing in profits, which is always a beautiful thing. If the stock goes up, I still have some. I can still benefit. If the stock goes down, I can buy more at lower prices. But at the end of the day, the reason why I am now investing in Nintendo is mostly because of Pokemon. Because management is really starting to kind of tick me off as a customer, and anytime that you start to kind of piss off your customers, that's not really a good thing. That's not a good thing for your company and for the stock. But at the end of the day, I still think that people will still buy this subscription service because they have to, and I think Pokemon, Smash Brothers, games like that will still keep the Nintendo Switch selling. But let me know what you guys think. This is a very divisive topic right now, so Nintendo is kind of a hot stock to talk about right now, because some people really think that a lot of these announcements are really bad and the stock is going to tank, and some people think, this is all just fluff, a lot of people are just talking, but at the end of the day, the Switch is going to keep selling. What's going to actually happen, I'm not sure, but that's why I wanted to minimize some of my risk and cash in some profits. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this update. If you guys like it when I update you guys on some of my stocks and the way I'm feeling and some of the things I'm thinking, I know it wasn't very organized, probably could do a better job of that, but if you still enjoy this, make sure you hit the like button and support the channel, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful, beautiful day, and take care. Bye-bye.